J.J. McCooley, private detective, at your service. Always at your service. You know, I've been in this racket a long time. This racket of being a private eye. Every day I tell myself I'm going to give it up. I'm going to get out of this business. Find something else to do. Something a little more secure. Something a little safer. Every day I tell myself, J.J. McCooley, get out of this business. Get out of this business. You've seen it all. You've seen enough. You don't need any more of this. But doggone it, every day I keep coming back for more. Every day J.J. McCooley is on the job for somebody, being a private eye, doing somebody's dirty work. I just can't leave it alone. You know, I think back to one of my earliest cases. It was for a fellow named Mr. Honeycutt. He was an elderly gentleman, very rich, very handsome. But he had a few bad habits that kept getting him into trouble. He lacked young women. And what was even worse, he kept marrying young women. He'd keep them around for a couple of years, offer them a few $1,000s for divorce, and get rid of them. Well, that worked out pretty good for 3 wives. But wife number 4 was a different story. She was a smart little cookie. She told Mr. Honeycutt, if you want to get rid of me, it's going to cost you $500,000. $500,000, she said, if you want to get rid of me. Why, Mr. Honeycutt was shocked. He said, you're crazy. She said, I might be crazy, but I'm also your wife. And if you want me to be your ex-wife, it's going to cost you $500,000. Well, Mr. Honeycutt knew he had met his match. He knew he was in big trouble. So who did he call? J.J. McCooley. He said, J.J., get me some evidence against this woman that I can use in divorce court. He said, find something, J.J. He said, I'll pay you well. I said, all right, Mr. Honeycutt. I'm on the job. So I followed her around for a week. Didn't find anything. Made phone calls. Couldn't find anything. Finally, week number 2, I got a break. I followed her to the country club one day. And lo and behold, I discovered she was having an affair with the young fella who was teaching her how to play tennis. I managed to get pictures and everything. I took all that evidence back to Mr. Honeycutt. He turned it over to his lawyer. His lawyer got in touch with his wife. She agreed to a $50,000 settlement. And that was the end of wife number 4. And Mr. Honeycutt was a happy man. He said, J.J. McCooley, you saved me a heck of a lot of money. He gave me a $5,000 bonus. And he said, if I ever get into trouble again, I'll know who to call. J.J. McCooley. I said, all right, Mr. Honeycutt, be careful. Why don't you try to stay out of trouble to begin with? He says, you know, young man, you've got a point. He said, I've got to take your advice. So that was one of my first cases. Mr. Honeycutt and his wives. I think about the second case I had. Boy, was that a burner. A fellow named Fred Blackbone. Fred Blackbone was accused of killing his wife. He and the girl had only been married about 9 months. Suddenly, one morning she turns up dead. Everybody in the city knew that Fred and his wife argued all the time, fussed, fought, couldn't get along. All the neighbors, relatives, friends, even the police. So everybody said, yeah, Fred did it. Fred killed his wife. He's as guilty as sin. So they're going to hang that son of a gun, or either they're going to fry him in the electric chair, or either they're going to put him in a room full of gas and watch him choke to death. They said Fred Blackbone killed his wife and he's finished. Well, Fred said, I didn't kill my wife, but no lawyer in town would take his case except one, a fellow named Mr. Mollahan. And who did Mr. Mollahan call for help? J.J. McCooley, private detective. He said, listen, J.J., said, this fellow Fred Blackbone said he didn't kill his wife. He said, we've got to find some evidence. He said, you get on the case. He said, I'll make sure you're financially rewarded well. So, brother, I got right on the case. Once again, first week, nothing. Second week, nothing. But the third week, just by accident, I happened to run across a taxi driver. He said, you know that Mrs. Blackbone had a lover. I said, huh? He said, yeah, said that young lady, Mrs. Blackbone, that got killed. Said she had a lover. Said they used to meet out in the country in one of those little motels. Said they very often took my taxi out to that motel. I said, are you serious? He said, yes, sir. I said, well, who was the lover? He said it was an automobile mechanic. Said, I know him, I'll tell you all about it. So the taxi driver told me all about the automobile mechanic, and I paid the fellow a visit one day at the garage. I said, I hear that you and Mrs. Blackbone were lovers. He said, where'd you hear that kind of crap? I said, oh, doesn't matter, doesn't matter. I said, I heard it. And I said, where I heard it, that person seems to have pretty good evidence against you. He said, it's a lie, it's a lie. I said, well, anyway, I'm sure the police will be wanting to talk to you, so don't leave town. Well, naturally, that's one of the first things the mechanic thought about. He immediately quit his job, rushed home, packed his bags. The moment he opened the front door and started out, there I stood with two policemen and Mr. Mollahan, Mr. Blackbone's lawyer. They took him down to the police station, questioned him for an hour. Finally, the fellow cracked. He cracked. He said, yes, I did it, I did it. Oh, I did it. He said, she was going to quit me. She was going to quit me, and I loved her so much I couldn't let her go. I couldn't let her go. So we had a vicious argument, and I accidentally pushed her. I didn't mean to kill her, and she hit her head, and I fixed everything to make it look like her husband did it. I said, well, how do you do? All right, so I had cracked another case. J.J. McCooley saved Fred Blackbone's life by finding the killer. Son of a gun. So Mr. Mollahan said, J.J. McCooley, boy, you did all right. Said, you're going to do all of my detective work for me when I have murder cases. I said, all right, Mr. Mollahan. You need me? You know where to find me? Just give me a call and I'll be there. J.J. McCooley. Well, I was sitting at home resting one day, watching a little TV, doing fine, drinking some lemonade, eating a nice sandwich. Somebody knocks on my door. I let him in. It's a nice-looking fella, about 40 years old or so. He's quite upset. He said, Mr. McCooley, I hear you're a private detective and a good one. I said, well, I don't want to brag. I said, but if that's what you've heard, I won't disagree. He said, I've got a big case for you. I said, well, that's what I'm used to handling, big cases. I said, what is it? He said, I want you to find my dog. I said, what? I said, hey, fella, I don't hunt for dogs. He said, oh, this is no ordinary dog, Mr. McCooley. Said, this is a show dog. Said, this dog is worth $100,000. Said, I travel all over America entering this dog in different shows. Said, I win $20, $30, $40,000 if I get first place. Said, this was a beautiful show dog. And he says, I think my sister and her husband stole my dog. I said, you gotta be kidding, your own sister? He said, yeah. I said, we don't get along worth a darn. I said, I believe she and her husband stole my dog. He said, I want you to get it. I said, well, are you sure you can afford me? He said, yes, I can afford you. I said, okay. So I took some more evidence from him, collected more information, and began my search. One of the first people I went to was a good old friend of mine, Lucinda. She loved animals. She knew everything there was to know about animals. I said, Lucinda, if somebody had a show dog, where would they take it to sell it if they weren't planning to enter it in shows themselves? If they had stolen the dog from somebody, where would they take that dog to sell it to get some good money? Lucinda gave me the names of several places, in state and out of state. I contacted about 20 of them. The 20th phone call, I struck pay dirt. Sure enough, those people had been contacted by a man and a woman with a show dog they wanted to sell. So I went and got my client. I said, come on, fella, I think I found your dog. We jumped in my car, drove all the way to Illinois as fast as I could, got the police in Illinois to come with us, and when the guy's sister and her husband showed up with the dog to sell it, they nabbed him right there. Oh, it was a beautiful case. The guy didn't want to press any charges against his sister and her husband, naturally, so he let him go just as long as he got his dog back. But he gave me $10,000. He said it was worth every penny to get my dog back. Said this dog is worth a fortune. Oh, baby, did I go home and count my money. I said, wow, J.J. McCooley, you're doing pretty darn good. I lived quite a while off of that $10,000. Another case I had come my way involved a stripper. That's right, one of these girls that gets out on the runway and dances and strips and goes on. Her name was Cherry Soda. That's right, I'm not kidding, a stripper named Cherry Soda. She said, J.J. McCooley, somebody's been threatening me. Said I've been getting phone calls and I've been getting notes threatening my life. I said, I want you to find out who's doing it. I said, well, young girl, I don't know if you can afford me. I said, are you quite sure? She says, hey, don't let my job fool you. The fact that I'm a stripper doesn't mean I'm poor. Said, you find out who's threatening me. So in order to solve that case, I got a job at the theater where she did her job. I got a job as a janitor. For a whole week, I pretended to be a janitor at this strip joint, going around taking care of the place, keeping my ears open, keeping my eyes open, listening for evidence, looking for evidence. The only thing I could figure out was this one stripper named Pineapple Shake. She seemed to travel a lot between dressing rooms of the other strippers. And one day, Cherry Soda found a threatening note in her dressing room. I said, I've only seen one person come in and out of your dressing room other than you. Pineapple Shake. So that evening, I cornered Pineapple Shake. I said, you're the one, aren't you? I said, I've got evidence. I said, you're the one who's threatening Cherry Soda's life. I said, why? What's going on? Pineapple Shake broke down and she said, she's trying to steal my man. I said, what are you talking about? She said, the owner of the club here said he was in love with me before Cherry Soda came along. When Cherry Soda came along, he fell in love with her. Said, doggone it, I'm going to get rid of it. I said, oh, I was right. So Pineapple Shake was trying to get rid of Cherry Soda. Well, I figured maybe we can solve this thing without going to the police. So I got Cherry Soda and Pineapple Shake and the club owner together, and I told them what was going on. And I said, Mr. Owner, you make a choice. Which one of these women do you want, or do you want either one of them? I said, we can't have a murder going on here. So son of a gun, he chose Cherry Soda. I said, well, I'm sorry, Pineapple Shake, but it looks like you're out in the cold. So she packed up her gear and walked away. She knew there was no hope, no need of making any trouble. So she got a job at another place. Cherry Soda paid me for all of my expenses. I figured I had saved 2 or 3 lives, who knew? But boy, what a strange case. Cherry Soda and Pineapple Shake. Oh, brother. So I went back home and I was doing fine, resting again. Son of a gun, I get a phone call. This time it's from a used car salesman. He says, J.J. McCooley, private detective. I said, yeah, that's me. What can I do for you? He said, I want to talk with you. Meet me. We set up a place to meet. I met him. He says, J.J. McCooley, my wife has run off with another guy in one of my used cars. I said, oh, so you want me to find her and see if I can talk her into coming back to you, huh? He says, oh, heck no. Said, I don't give a hill of beans about her. Said, I want my car back. He said, find out where my car is. Said, that's a classic car. He said, here's the keys. He said, wherever you find it, just get in it and drive it back to me. He said, if you have any trouble with the police, let me know. I said, oh. I said, well, this is going to cost you now, sir. He says, I can afford it. I said, oh, all righty. So I got on the case, looking for this used car salesman's wife. I went through Illinois, Indiana, Michigan. That's where I finally struck pay dirt. I put out the word to a few people there that I knew who dealt in automobiles, legal and illegal. I described the car I was looking for. They put some of their people out on the street looking for it too. And one day somebody spotted the car, of all places, in a supermarket parking lot. They called me. I went over. There was the used car salesman's wife and her lover in the car getting ready to go into the supermarket. So I just sat there real calm like. I had a buddy with me, fellow that I was paying to help me out. So the moment the used car salesman's wife and her lover went into the supermarket, I said, all right, we're taking the car. Let's go. I had the keys naturally. Opened the car door. I said, you get in, follow me. Brother, we headed back toward the Ohio state line. Oh, we were driving like crazy. I'm in my car. The fella I'm paying to help me, he's driving the used car salesman's car. We made it back to Ohio. Son of a gun, we made it back to the used car salesman's lot. I said, all right, mister, there's your car. I said, this was a tricky case. I said, I could have got hurt. I said, this fella that I'm using here, he could have got hurt. I said, it's going to cost you several $1,000s. He says, whew. I said, I don't care. I said, I'm so happy to have my car back. I said, well, what about your wife? He said, like I said, she can stay where she is as long as I got my car. I said, oh, brother. I said, well, there you are. There's your car. I said, good luck to you. Thanks for the money. So I tell you, I keep telling myself, J.J. McCooley, these crazy adventures you keep going on for people, you just got to stop it. You've got to get out of this racket. But, like I said, folks, I doubt if I ever will. I doubt if I'll ever give it up. I mean, after all, I just kind of figured there's never been a detective like J.J. McCooley. And I think I'll stay on the job just a little longer.